Hello everyone, welcome back to Fanblade. It is episode 2 of the Electric Upright version 2 build. Going to get straight on in, going to do some work on the neck. Now I have marked out the centerline and the edges of the neck so I know where I'm trimming to. That's just simple enough operation on the bandsaw. I've also marked out the thickness of the neck, and there's quite a lot to remove here, which means I'm going to have quite a lot sort of spare. Now, there was a great comment from viewer Trevor D4243 who suggested that it might be nice if the peg box, because yes, in the violin family it's called a peg box, not a headstock. I make that mistake a lot. I will make it again, but anyway. He suggested that it might be nice if it was angled back slightly. And there is actually potential to do that here for a couple of reasons. The tuners are going to sit in there like that, and yes, the hole is a little bit oversized. That's to allow for the ferrules to go in from the inside. But when that's all measured out and centered, I've actually got enough space to take about 7mm off the front here. In fact, I've marked a line down there. I'm going to be cutting a large amount off the back of this, and it's easy enough to glue some on there, which also solves another problem. When I was rasping all of this out, there was a bit of chip out. So it's a pretty easy fix really. I'll simply take the piece that I cut off the back here, make a little wedge, and just glue that across the back. I don't even have to cut out the hole, because on a traditional double bass, the back of the peg box is a completely sealed thing. In fact, I might even be able to do some sort of sculpting in there just for extra style points. So that is the first set of operations for the day, is to rough this down to approximately its final shape, then glue a bit on the back, and then I can set that aside to dry. Let's go. So here is the neck, looking a lot more like a neck. This is good progress, I like it. The angle of the headstock, it's very subtle, but I think it was worth doing. Of course, if this is a prototype, then the final design will have ever so slightly more of an angle. The holes would actually be in line with that angle, and also I would probably construct it completely differently as well. As an afterthought, I probably needn't have really bothered, but I mean, I feel like it was worth doing, so I've done it. Next step with this one is to radius the fingerboard. What I have found is that when I'm playing an upright bass, I really do need some side markers. I really do need some side dots. I'm not that good that I can go without them. I have to have those. Once you hit the 12th position, though, you're not playing on this side of the fingerboard. Having dots on this side makes no real sense. So lots of designers just put them in the surface of the fingerboard on this side. That's cool. I'm going to do that on this one. And controversially, I'm going to do it right now. Because right now, everything's flat. The centre line is still drawn. I can get accurate measurements off this and mark my positions accurately. When this is radiused, everything becomes a little bit more wobbly. And yeah, I wouldn't really trust myself to do that. Plus, if I've got a dot in there, and there, and there, and there, etc., and they're glued in, and they're getting sanded down with the radius, and then they're getting finished with the rest of the board, then they're just going to get incorporated in there. It's never going to be a problem that I have to come in to a partially sanded board, drill a hole, hope it's in the right place, and then resand that bit. It'll become uneven. So right from the start, going to have all my positions marked. I'm thinking also of ebonising the whole entire neck, simply because this Quilla board, bearing in mind, this entire thing, every piece of this, including the fingerboard, is all cut from that same plank. And you can see the differences in timber colour. It's all it just looks a little bit uneven, it looks a bit motley. Ebonise the whole thing, problem solved. Plus it'll look really, really cool with that on a mahogany body. I think that'll look pretty badass. So yes, markers, radius, carve, sand. Gonna hopefully have this neck looking very close to its final form by the end of today. Let's go. Here is the setup for the initial radiusing of the board. The neck is in the vise with the offcuts from that part of the neck actually meaning that the jaws of the vise can get a nice square grip on it. It's not going anywhere. I have got a little 4-inch template here, 4-inch radius template, which I will use to check how close I'm getting with a small plane. And I will just take little bits off until I start to get close with this, and then I'm going to switch to the sanding block. Now, the last time that I did this, I did discover that a 4-inch radius is circular enough that when the thing is on there and it's sliding back and forth, it actually doesn't want to twist because there's actually too much material sort of holding it in line. It sort of slides back and forth on its own radius, which is neat. Normally, they would actually have somewhere around 3.5 down this end, going up to a much flatter surface up here. I'm not set up for compound radiuses. I'm not doing it. The last one of these was 4 inches all the way up, and that's perfectly comfortable. It's just a nice compromise. The reason why they do that is so that you can have ease of playing at this end and then ease of bowing at this end. I don't play with a bow, except very, very rarely and very badly, I might add. So, yeah, 4 inches all the way up and down. Yes, it'll be good, but it's going to take a long time. Wish me luck. this is what I'm talking about. It's centered itself nicely. It's just rotating around its own axis there, and you can just slide that back and forth, and crucially, it doesn't want to twist that way. Yeah, you can just literally just let it ride on its own radius. Yeah, it's good. We are ever so slightly canted that way, just a bit. That's fine. It's only at 40 grit. I'm going to stick it in the proper jig, and we'll switch up to 80 and then maybe 120, just so I can pull that back on this side, because yes, this is so close to being damn near perfect. It would be a shame to go, oh, it's good enough, because good enough never really is. I'm going to get this one right. So we're down to 120 grit. There's only 1/4 of a millimetre in it, which I'm prepared to put down to measuring error, because it's quite difficult to actually measure that precisely, just because, you know, if you're a little bit off with this, of course, you're going to get a completely different measurement. Yeah, it's fine. That is actually good enough, I think. We're within the acceptable tolerances. Time to carve it. And here is my neck. currently sanded to 120. I will go over it and hand sand it to 180 before we do anything about finishing. I'm not a massive fan of the peg box design. It looks a bit big and a bit clunky. Yeah, I will be doing a full redesign of that on the next one. But for now, this is, like, it's good. And I love the way my dots came out as well. That's going to look great. For now, though, I'm going to set that aside and we're going to talk about the body. Now, in the last video, I put forth the idea that I would like to put binding on this, and unfortunately the only binding that I've got is black. Now, that does pose a slight problem because you have to be fairly careful what you do with staining options, just so that the black doesn't just sort of disappear, because it'd be very easy for that to just blend in and not be visible at all. I did a test with some very dark stain just to make the grain pop, and then sanded all of that back, and then put a wash across the top with a much lighter stain, and then a couple of layers of glue just on there, just to see what would happen, because it will darken it a little bit. But that looks good to me. That looks alright. I can probably get away with making this look a little bit lighter even, because the contrast with the binding, it's nearly there. It's not quite, but I'm pretty sure I can make that look much better on the body, and then the binding will really tie the whole lot together. So, that's where we're up to. I'm going to go and cut a binding channel. Then I'm going to carve the body down to the correct depth, give it some shape. I may also route the edges off the back, just round those over a little bit, just to make that a bit easier. In fact, I might start with that. Yes. That sounds like a plan. is a fully bound body, sanded out to 180 and looking pretty nice. Love it. Now, there's a couple of little things I've got to do before it's ready for staining. When I cut this top out, I was hoping to miss all of the damage that was happening through here. And we just got this tiny little hole on this side. The other side has a tiny little speck of it just on the edge of the binding. I'm not necessarily going to worry about that, but I do need to fill this. What I'm going to do is drop a little bit of super glue down inside there, then glue in a piece of elm, but what that's going to mean is that the piece of elm will be glued in there, but we're not going to have super glue sitting on the surface. Well, ideally, no super glue sitting on the surface to block the stain, so should be able to make this pretty much disappear. Then, yes, wire brushing to bring out the soft grain so that the stain go in, make all these lines nice and really vibrant. This is going to look pretty amazing. So, yeah, drop a little bit in there, get out the wire brush and go to town, and then we can see how this thing's finally going to look. Now, at this point, I'm faced with a choice. I have attempted, as you can see, to do a very subtle sort of a burst. It looks a little bit uneven, it looks a little bit patchy. Now, I am going to seal this with some super glue initially, and I have to make a call as to whether or not the super glue is going to darken the wood enough to sort of to blend in the patchiness. I don't know. I don't actually know if that's going to work. I think my best bet is simply to take the lighter wood dye and just give the thing a uniform coat. That is going to work. That is guaranteed to be the thing that works. So rather than take a chance on this thing looking a little bit rubbish, I'm going to do the thing where I know it's going to look good. And there we are. That is a couple of coats of glue just to seal the stain in and protect the top. We will be doing a lot more to this body in due course before the final finish goes on, just like we will be doing plenty more to the neck, including ebonizing it. I'm still undecided about ebonizing the entire thing. I kind of wanted to see the contrast with the body once that was done. before I make that decision. But I will make that decision over the next couple of days, and you will find out all about it next week. So, yes, till then, thank you very much for watching, thank you very much for subscribing, and I will see you soon. Thank you.